Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Everything Dog Training with me, John McGuigan, Glasgow dog trainer and behaviour consultant. I hope you're having a great day and enjoying the weather, whatever it is. Even if the weather's gloomy, and there's always something that we can find nice to do or nice to appreciate. And if you're having a not so good day, hopefully it gets better for you soon, or that it's the least amount of rubbish that it can be. Thanks for joining us again. If you're new to the podcast, welcome, and please do look through some of the previous articles or previous podcasts and listen to some of the other ones. If you are, just a little appeal, if you are the first time to us, can you just ping me an email, info@glasgowdogtrainer.co.uk, and just give me some feedback. It doesn't have to be anything major, just let me know what you think about it. I'm always interested in listening to people who are listening for the first time, and I do respond to every email about the podcast so far, because I'm not inundated. If we get to the stage where the podcast takes off and I'm getting thousands of emails, fingers crossed, then I wouldn't be able to respond to each one of them. But I do respond to every email about my podcast. And if I haven't responded to your email, apologies, it probably just got lost in the ether somewhere, so please do reach out again. You can get me as well at Glasgow Dog Trainer on Facebook or Instagram and YouTube. We've got loads of free content there, training videos, video blogs and a whole bunch of other things. So our guest today, Iuean Hudson. Hopefully I'm pronouncing Iuean's first name properly. It's a Welsh name. Iuean has Pawsitive Life, a dog daycare and training centre which is in Somerset in the south of England. And Iuean is a dedicated positive trainer from Somerset. His journey into the world of positive dog training began with the adoption of his rescue dog George, who faced behavioural challenges and was deemed unsuitable for rehoming. Helping and understanding George ignited a passion in him that led to him leaving the military in order to pursue dog training full time. Since then, he has devoted himself to understanding the science behind modern positive dog training, earning qualifications that reflect on his commitment to ethical practices. He has spent the last few years researching, practicing and training dogs and their guardians before opening Pawsitive Life in June 2024. Their positive-only dog daycare and training hub is designed to serve the local community. At Pawsitive Life, Iuean and the team focus on creating a nurturing, enriching environment where every dog is cared for in the most positive and ethical way possible. With an ethos rooted in compassion for dogs and force-free training backed by science, he believes that training should be a joyful experience for both dogs and their guardians and truly develop their bond and relationship without fear. He's dedicated to making Pawsitive Life Daycare and Training Hub a transparent, force-free, positive-only dog hub with within his community, focusing on educating owners and empowering and developing his team in science-backed positive training. So, good. Okay, sounds good, eh? A really nice conversation with Iuean. And what else have we got? You'll maybe noticed that we had a little musical intro. So that was my son playing. He just recorded that for me. What I would like you to do, if you're interested in winning one of my free courses, I'll link all our courses on, and I'll put a link to in the show notes to our online training platform where you can download a bunch of self-study courses from recall to loose lead walking, aggression and reactivity, working with the adolescent dog, building focus on your dog, and a whole bunch of other courses. They're affordable and comprehensive, so there's a lot of information in there for the price that they are. And we also have our online membership, which is £15, which is about $18 US, so about 15 British pounds GPV per month. Okay, and you get access to all courses for that. So if you're interested, ping me an email if you can identify the song that is played in the intro, and I'll pick somebody at random and I'll give them a free mini course. Alright, so thanks to my son Max for playing that little intro. If you know me and you know what my favourite band is, and I know that that's a wee bit out there, but there are indicators in some of my photographs and whatnot. It might give you a little bit of an indication. But let's get into the podcast, and thanks for listening. So welcome, Iuean. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to. And we've been trying for a couple of weeks, I think, to get this organised. So, so you're Iuean, and
Yes,
it's
correct.
Welsh.
Yes, Welsh, yeah.
So Welsh first name, and Hudson's English, or is it American?
Oh, I
Well,
couldn't
it's
tell you
certainly
that
not
one, actually.
American. It's
I
certainly
couldn't
not
tell you that one,
right.
no.
I mean, there's the River Hudson, but it's certainly not a Native American word. Is it? Right. Okay. And where are you based? Where are you?
I'm in Somerset.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no making ooh jokes then.
No, no. Only moved here about 4 years ago now, so I still very much feel like an outsider to the
Okay.
locals.
Yeah.
It's one of those kind of places that everyone knows everyone
Yeah.
type thing, and I'm just slowly getting in, I feel. I'm starting to feel more and more like a local as the years go by. Yeah.
How's your accent changed since you've been? Because the little bits here and there.
I was there. Oh, I always take the mick out of my partner because hers is a lot more obvious than mine is. I don't think mine's changing too much, but yeah, maybe have to stay on top of that one. But yeah, hers
No,
is coming
it's a
along.
cool accent. I always liked it. It's just yeah, it's pleasant.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's a real
Everyone's
pleasant
happy around
accent.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's lovely.
Okay, so how did you get into dog training, Iuean?
Um, so about 6, 7 years into my army career, I met my partner and we moved in together. And after it was going well for a bit, we decided to adopt a dog. I've always had a love for dogs. I've had dogs my whole life, but never had one that was mine and not a family pet, if that makes sense. So we rescued him, and he's a liver spotted Dalmatian.
Okay.
And we realized, well, we didn't know much about him, didn't know much about his past, other than he was taken from his mother at about 5 weeks,
Okay.
and he was put in a kitchen for about 2.5 years,
Okay.
and he didn't. That was essentially it before we had him. So yeah, so um, the family pet growing up was always like labs or golden retrievers, and they were all like we never had any behavior problems with him. And we had a lot of behavior problems with him, and I'd really wanted to help him out. Even like really bizarre stuff, like he had no spatial awareness. Well,
Okay.
not bizarre, that's probably not the right word. Something I've never experienced or knew dogs even had.
Yeah.
Like he would just randomly just fall off the sofa or walk
Yeah.
into walls and just
Yeah.
like random stuff like that. And I think, God, what's happening there? So um, we bought in a dog trainer that was in the local area. And I'm embarrassed to say it now, but I didn't know at the time. And they were very much an aversive type trainer. And I didn't, and watching them train him, or not train him, watching them work with him, I didn't quite understand why they were punishing him for being nervous
Okay.
and scared. Like we'd go to a field and he would just sit there like vibrating because he was just really anxious. And I didn't quite understand why they were punishing him for that.
And
Um,
you say punishing, what were they doing?
like yanking slip leads, telling
Okay.
them off, like hitting his nose and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I'd sort of like canned it about 20 minutes into it. I'm really not comfortable with this happening. I know he's like scared. And then from there, we went to another trainer after that, and it was almost very much the same. Just that kind of stuff. And I just didn't quite understand it. And I didn't want to keep repeating that pattern of getting a trainer and not being happy with it, keeping that. So I started studying dog training and behavior myself.
When was this? Sorry to interrupt you. How long
Um,
was this?
when was this? It was in the break of the first lockdown. So it
Oh
was
wow. Okay.
September
So
2020. So
okay.
it's quite a while ago, yeah.
Yeah. No,
Um,
the only reason I ask that is because I'm considerably older than you, unfortunately,
yeah.
but the people my age have had that experience, but that was probably 25 years ago or 20 years ago.
Hmm.
What strikes me about that story is I mean, I know you said that was a while ago, but it wasn't. It was only 4 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's-
fair, yeah,
That's
fair, yeah.
somebody in a modern era that still
Hmm.
thinks that that's the way to train a terrified or really, really, really scared dog.
Yeah, yeah. And it is concerning, and that's why I sort of canned it. And I'm sort of not so much embarrassed to admit it now because I didn't know any better,
Of
but like
course.
looking
Yeah.
back, it just like makes me cringe a little bit. But yeah, I felt so sorry for him and I owe him everything. And yeah, I just really wanted to help him. I wanted him have a happy life, and
Yeah.
that's essentially it. Like, he's not had the best start, and just little things like, I will always encourage him to share his emotions with me, and I truly believe we've built like a really, really good bond.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm over the moon with how he is now. And
Awesome. So
yeah.
what kind of stuff? So I'll ask you what you did to get um to help him out of that state, and then
Hmm.
where that brought you to in your because you changed career. So what kind of stuff did you do in order to help him out of that state that he was in?
Um, the majority of it was almost just letting him around the house was sort of big stuff first because he was quite anxious of us just moving around. Um and another thing that wasn't great, which I forgot to mention there, was one of the trainers told us to crate train him, and we had an upside down house at the time, so the
Okay.
bedroom was downstairs and the living room was upstairs. um and so we put him in the crate at night and he was howling and going crazy. And um, we messaged a trainer and said, "Look, he's going crazy. Like, what can we do?" And they said, "Just leave him in there. He'll cry it out. He'll be fine." And after about 10 minutes, I goes, "Nothing's changing. Like, it's not a behavior thing, or sorry, it's not a training thing. It's a
Yeah.
behavior thing.
Yeah.
Um, like he isn't comfortable. Let's just bring him down." And we brought him down, um, and he slept, and he had a perfect sleep. And that was like another thing that really put me off going back to these trainers. Um, so it was more just allowing him to feel comfortable in the house, kind of thing. It wasn't like you're there, that's that. It was more like, not pestering him, not wanting him to do anything. It was just allowing him to be comfortable to start off and sort of building that base level of trust with him.
Yeah.
Um, from there, when we started going out, um, we had not so much a treat problem to start off, but he'd been fed how do I say this nicely, like the lowest quality, cheapest food going.
Yeah.
So like feeding him anything was difficult because he just wasn't comfortable eating.
Okay. And
And
so he wouldn't eat, or he would take the hand off you to eat it.
he wouldn't eat. We
Okay.
had to buy. We found I forgot what brand were they were now, but they were really expensive, like pack of sausages, and that's almost the only thing he would eat
Okay.
at any time. Um, So we weaned him onto food from there, and we used those sausages to help him outside. And it was just what one thing I'm a massive fan of is screensaver training. We did that a lot with him to start off. So it was literally just going to fields and just sitting there for hours, sometimes just allowing him to sit and watch the world. And it was because we live in Somerset, there's lots of fields
Yeah.
and lots of things close to fields. So for example, just next to the city centre, or Bath city centre, there's tons of fields and you can view the city. Like
Oh, wow. Okay.
people walk past with their dogs. There's a train station that trains come past, and it was really good just socialization and habituation with him.
Yeah.
And he could just chill out and just let the world, or just watch the world. And
Yeah.
I believe that helped him so much. And it wasn't a point of asking for a sit or a down or look at me or whatever. It was just, mate, let's just chill out. Let's just have God knows how much time here, and it's just chill, and then we'll go home soon. And yeah, all's good. And that was helped him out massively.
Okay.
And yeah.
So there are a couple of things to ask you about there when you're saying. So I want to talk about what you mean by screensaver training to start.
Hmm.
I'll get to that in a second. What's striking again about that? What's lovely about it is that when we've got, and you'll have seen this when you were in the army with people, that when we undergo um, and I'm always conscious of using the word trauma because I think it gets used far too much now, and then it
Hmm.
minimizes people who've actually gone through proper traumatic experiences.
Yeah,
Someone looking at you the wrong way doesn't trigger you, right? You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
if unless that's putting you back to a traumatic experience that you've had in the
yeah.
past, which
Hmm.
has actually been traumatic, and it has reminded
Yeah,
you of
yeah.
that. But um, but what's lovely about what you've described there is that you've given him time and space to relax his neurology, his physiology, to rewire himself, to no
Hmm.
pressure on him. You're
Hmm.
just being.
Yeah, yeah,
And that comes through being comfortable with somebody. Eh?
yeah.
It's really, really lovely. So when you're saying about screensaver training, expand a little bit on that. What do you mean by that?
Um, it's it's very much just going. It depends on what the dog finds triggering as well, also, doesn't it? But it's very much just going somewhere and sitting, standing, whatever, and just watching the world go by.
Yeah,
And it's a very good part of socialization. It's also a very good part of habituation. And it just allows them to process their emotions. And the key thing there is not having them under a cue at all times. They haven't got to sit, they haven't got to look at you, they haven't got to lie. They just got to just sit there and just watch the world go by.
so you're
And
not requiring anything of them other than them
no,
be.
yeah, yeah, just be there, just chill out, and it's all good. And you can really understanding the dog's body language there, you can really actually see how chilled they are. Like, if dog's stressed, they're really tense. If a dog's chilled out, they might settle, they might lie down, they might get their head down a little bit. Awesome. That's great stuff. And just letting them be, like you say. And, sometimes they'll have more triggers, and that's just go slightly further away, and then you build up to it over time. And that's just like, yeah, it's just allowing them to process it, because behavior and emotions is so complex, isn't it? And it just allowing them time to process it just pays itself back tenfold. It's yeah, I put a lot of stock into that sort
Yeah,
of type of training. It's very underdone, I think, in
yeah,
the
I would
world right
agree.
now.
Yeah. It's one of the things I say to lots of my clients, especially with puppies. Take your dog to new places and
Mhm.
sit there with them. And you get a folding seat, you get a mug of coffee or a mug of tea, and just sit there with your dog and let them watch. And it's
Mhm.
kind of like, how old are you?
I'm 30 now.
Right. Okay. So you're different generations from me, and I'm grown up with much more tech than
Hmm.
we had. But I see it a lot with people your age and younger. It's the ability not to be bored.
Hmm.
You
It's that
know,
TikTok brain, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was listening to a comedian who's the same age as me, and he was talking. He said you didn't have any other option. He said you'd be traveling into the city on the bus as a child, right? And you would have nothing to do. So what you did was you watched people, or you looked out the window, or you watched a raindrop running down.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, because we didn't have mobile phones, your parents would come and pick you up, and they would say after a class or something. And it wasn't as if they were there waiting for you. You'd be waiting sometimes 40 minutes
Yeah, yeah,
and you kicked a stone about the street for
yeah.
40 minutes,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But it
yeah.
teaches you to be okay with being bored, eh?
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember experiencing that. I was very much as soon as I hit my teens, that's when like the Nokia 3310s came out.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I was before that, I think it was very much like you got to try and find stuff to do,
yeah, yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah, yeah.
And with your dog, it's quite the opposite there. You're actually saying
Yeah, yeah,
we're going to find nothing to do other than
yeah,
watch the world, which is
yeah,
fast
yeah.
in itself.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And then, build up to the world being busy around you. You can start in a field in literally the middle of nowhere. And then after some time, as long as God's comfortable with it and keep progressing, you can be in the middle of a city centre. And it's phenomenal how good that is.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think we should put a lot more emphasis on doing nothing
yeah,
and having a calm dog without a cue. Or, yeah,
yeah. Awesome.
yeah,
Now, you're saying there about you mentioned that being kind of under a cue or being cued to do a behavior. Expand a little bit on that. What do you mean by that?
What do you mean?
So when you're saying there that rather, so you said letting the dog be, okay, so you go out in a field
Yeah,
and
yeah,
sit, rather than telling them to sit, 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 lie down,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
what's the difference there? Why would we want to do the first version rather than the second one?
It's almost what we've been saying, really. It allows the dog to just be
Yeah,
and process their emotions, because I see it fairly often of a dog just being very good under a cue. Ask for a sit, they sit. Ask for a lie down, they lie down, and they'll just stay there. And yes, okay, that looks good and dogs responding and all that good stuff. But as soon as you give them a release, they just go absolutely crazy because they don't actually know what to do with themselves. They can't, they haven't learned to be calm, and they
Yeah,
haven't. Yeah, so I think that is a sort of a big difference there in
yeah,
not having it, and it's also allows us to have a pleasurable experience with the dog as well, right? Like, you don't want to be going somewhere and your dog has to be under a queue at all times.
yeah,
Like, just let them be, just let them chill out, and then it saves walking down the street. They haven't got to be walking this way, that way. When you get to a side of the road, they haven't got to be stopped. Just like, mate, just work with me. All's good. Happy days. When I stop, yeah, cool. Happy days. When we go, let's go. Like, it doesn't have to be a queue all the time.
yeah.
And yeah,
And you say that doesn't have to be a cue. Do you mean by from us, so we don't have to keep telling the dog what to do? The dog
yeah,
understands from the circumstances.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's very much working as a team as well, isn't it? Like, once it's working in that partnership, when you get to the side of a road, if you work well, like the dog should stop with you,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and that's just you two being in the singing off the same hymn sheet. Like, they don't have to be in a sit. You don't have to say wait. Like, they're in tune with you. So then
yeah,
when you start walking again, they start walking again. Happy days. And then it doesn't have to be like, I think people read into it so much and they don't give dogs credit for how smart they actually are.
yeah.
Because like, you're not allowed to do anything unless I give you permission to do it. Like,
Uh-huh.
and they have to be there all the time. And it's also often used as a, I don't know if umbrella term is the right word, but it's used to like mask up other issues when it's not really the be all and end all.
What do you mean by
That
that?
makes sense. So, um, I have a lot of clients who live near cycle paths, and there's a fair amount of dog to dog reactivity as they're approaching each other. Um, but instead of creating some distance and then just standing off to one side, they like have to stand in front of their dog, leaning over their dog. They have to say
Yeah,
like, "Sit, wait, stay, look at me," blah 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 blah. And that's just not helping the dog at all. That's just firing more onto them,
yeah.
and they're already stressed. But you just like firing more and more onto them, and it's just yeah, just help them be calm. That's
And
it. And
it sounds like from that example you're using there, that dog's that partnership probably shouldn't be under those conditions anyway. It's
yeah,
too
yeah,
okay. You
yeah,
know,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's one thing we say, like, you, I think it was yourself the other day saying, like, you don't learn to drive in a Ferrari
yeah.
going really
Unfortunately,
fast down the road. It's just like, take them out of it and then work up to it.
yeah.
And yeah, your dog isn't going to learn new behaviors in the moment. You need to learn them and then approach the environment. Um,
Do you think there's a balance so that generally how I would explain it is that I want to empower my clients, and so that's
mhm,
the canine and human clients, right?
mhm,
So the you know yourself. I mean, because you've been in the army, you've got those kind of good soldiers, which I always think are kind of like working cocker spaniels are like good soldiers, eh?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
tell them what to do and teach them what to do, they'll do it. But
mhm,
it's like if they you can train them so highly that when they, just as you've said there, that if you're not giving them clear instruction about what to do, they don't know what to do.
yeah, yeah,
What happens then? And what happens if the boss is then not there?
mhm,
Right. So you're then having to develop those environmental cues that, well, I understand what we do here. You know,
mhm,
we,
yeah, yeah,
under
yeah,
these conditions, I don't need to be told what to do. You know,
mhm,
so the way I try to empower my clients, both the dog and human, to do this, but then also teach them that it's not a problem with the human client because they understand English.
yeah, yeah,
They're working with your dog. It's then when a dog's having a hard time that we can meaningfully intervene to help them. And that is then in giving them clear instruction about come this way, pay
yeah,
attention
yeah,
to me. Yeah, I see that you've seen that dog back to me now. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so you've got both things, and then the more that you do, if you do too much of the leaving the dog be, you're
mhm,
not practicing enough of the meaningful
yeah, yeah,
instruction.
definitely, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then if you get the meaningful instruction, you do too much of that, the dog's never learning to be empowered.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a fine line, isn't it? Yeah,
And we're constantly throughout the dog's life balancing them back
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What do you think about I mean you've touched a little bit on that about and I think this is a lot of so we'll call them lay people, non-trainers, right?
Mhm,
Uh, that this is why, because I asked you before we started recording, because I was kind of getting through some of so that I could understand what you were meaning by the terms that you were using. So much is that we think that we're the only thing in the environment cueing the dog's behavior,
Yeah, yeah,
but the environment cues that a lot, doesn't it?
massively. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's just patterns a lot of the time, isn't it? Patterns, history, whatever, even sense that we don't even know, or sense or smells that they've experienced before and maybe had a negative experience with could
Yeah,
cause a behavior that we're not used to in that situation or whatever. It's amazing how it just how there's sort of a world there that we don't see
yeah,
or know about that they're very much in tune with it.
yeah.
And yeah, I've sort of lost my train of thought
No,
there.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the doorbell cues a behavior, yeah, but it's
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
and it's somebody else that's ringing the doorbell,
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Or if you feed your dog at, you know, 6 6 p.m. every night, and you watch the news every night, when the chimes come on for the 6 o'clock news,
Yeah,
that's when you
yeah,
start cueing your dog to get up and go into the kitchen.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, because
yeah.
dogs just like that. Well, this is what happens now.
Hmm.
One of the a really good example of that was there, and this was a long time ago. My dog hated the old theme for the UFC, right, when it
Okay,
was on, and she hated it. But she
right,
hated it because I would shout at the television because I used to get so
right.
excited watching the fights.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when that, and it was the big kind of, it was before, yeah, before the UFC became popular and rubbish. So when it
yeah,
used to be back when it used to be good, and it's this kind of 2010, 12, something like that, and it was like a kind of orchestral, kind of Roman imperial chant that would come on with some music over the
right.
top of
Okay.
it. And my dog used to get up, and she just used to go into she would get up from the living room and that music came on and go into the hall.
Oh wow. Okay.
She's
Okay.
like, I don't want to be in
Yeah.
that room when dad
Yeah.
when that
Yeah.
music comes
Yeah.
on. My
Yeah.
dad
Don't
acts
fancy
like a
that. No.
crazy person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some cues that we can give, we aren't necessarily aware that we're doing them,
Hmm.
like with body language or whatever. And I mentioned this one quite a lot, but I had a client before who, whenever dog was reactive to other dogs, but whenever they saw a dog, even before their dog know it, they would go, "Oh," like unintentionally. They would always go, "Oh," and the dog would like you could see their dog go, "What?" Like
Yeah.
what's happening? And it was yeah, it would always yeah. It's funny just seeing that outsider coming
Yeah.
into it, like right, yeah, this is what's happening. Like
Because it's meaningful to the dog that
exactly,
little,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
that
It it's
tick, I
phenomenal.
suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Little verbal tick or vocal tick. And the it has meaning through all those repetitions.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
Dog just goes, Dad does that, makes that noise, dog appears, everything goes wrong. When the dog
Hmm.
goes away, everything goes back to being right again.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Same as post person to come to the door.
yeah,
Everything lovely and calm. Doorbell goes crazy. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so you run classes as well, yeah?
yeah, yeah. We, puppy classes mainly. We're looking at doing more scent worky stuff starting next week, I believe. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
nice.
So looking at going into that, but majority has been puppy classes because up until we've opened our daycare, it's sort of been rent a village hall type thing
Yeah,
and then go from there. And village halls are very few and far between around Somerset,
okay.
and we only had one evening a week that we could go to. So
Oh, okay.
and yeah, so we just sort of had to stick to one class really, and they
Is
just
that
have to
because the
come back to
venue's
that.
booked for the other nights
Yeah, yeah.
for scouts and stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah, loads of bizarre. They did have a night for loads of people who booked the hall, and yeah, it was like taekwondo, martial arts, yoga, scouts, like you're saying, and then just yeah. So
Yeah.
felt bad for the dogs coming in, and but yeah, if they allow it, then happy days. But yeah, now we have our own place. We can sort of run classes as and when. So
Okay.
we're
And
sort of looking
how long's your course? So would it be 5 weeks or 6 weeks? Eight? How long do you?
puppy.
Yeah.
Puppy is six.
Okay.
First session without dogs, and then five with.
Okay. What do you go over in the first session?
So we go over, oh God, like good leads, harnesses, typical dog behaviors, like the process of a cue, Oh, you put me on the spot, yeah. I only did it last night as well, so
All
it
right.
should be fresh in my mind. Um, the currencies of a dog. President
Currency.
said, sorry.
Currency, did you say?
Yes, yeah, currency is what they're willing to work towards. I said that. Press of the queue. We go through things like we touch on a lot, but we don't go too much in depth. But we touch on the predatory motor pattern and how we can enrich instead of suppress
Yeah.
that. What else is there? Tends to be like typical behavior problems, the goods and bads when it comes to harnesses and leads and whatever. With harnesses, it tends to be like allow shoulder movement type thing and allow freedom of movement in the harnesses. Um, oh God, what else is there? And we show a few videos. We go through the ladder of discomfort just so they can hopefully understand and recognize signs in their dog that they're stressed, so
Yeah.
they know when to like remove themselves from the situation or to come forward, and then talk through the structure of the layout, the structure of the sessions. And it's also good without pups that they come and they know where we are.
Yeah,
So
sure. Okay.
yeah, and I think we always get, I wouldn't say a bit of pushback, but it's always a bit weird, right? If you're saying, yeah, puppy class first sessions without dogs, and we always get people that are like, why? And always after the first session, people are like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because having being able to communicate all of that with five dogs in there would be an absolute, yeah, it
Yeah, of
just wouldn't
course.
work. It just
Yeah.
wouldn't work. And I would feel like I'm doing a disservice to them if I just go on, right, puppy class, I'm not going to teach you anything about dog behavior or anything. We're
Yeah.
going to come and teach you sit down, whatever. And that's it. So I really want to help the owners sort of help them and help the owners help their dogs, if that makes sense.
There can
And
be a disconnect there as well, can't there? That so we've got what the public dog owning public think that they want versus
Mhm.
what, and this I'm going to try and say this without any arrogance, what we know that they need.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if they bring their dog to the first class and they're so say you've got one dog and is not particularly happy to be there and then barks the whole time,
Hmm.
so that person now not listen to anything that you're saying because they're either trying to settle or reprimand their dog,
Hmm.
or they're embarrassed because
Yeah,
their dog's barking when every other dog is behaving well or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then that's disruptive to the big dopey Labrador who then
Hmm.
just wants to goof off and play. That dog then starts getting a hard time because he's reacting to the dog who's barking, and now
Yeah, yeah,
nobody's listening to anything that you're saying.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So I do find it, and I've, you do have some clients that aren't very interested in it, and they just wanted to do a puppy class with their dogs, and that's completely fine. I don't that's fine if that's the way they
There's no
want to do it. That's the way
test.
they want to do it. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no
There's no
test at
test
the
at the
end.
end, and I do stress that at the start because there's some bits I do try not to go down rabbit holes when talking about
Yeah.
certain things. And yeah, it's understandable. People just want a puppy class, and that's fine. But I do generally think I'll be doing a disservice if I didn't help them understand this.
Yeah, of course.
It's such a, it's so easy to get frustrated at a dog if you don't know why they're doing something, or yeah, you know what I mean. Like if a dog's stressed, instead of getting annoyed, think, okay, my dog's stressed.
Yeah.
Let's
Do
do
something about
something
the
about that.
stress.
Yeah, and yeah, I think it works really well. And after every session, I send an email out of what we've done in the session, progressions, regressions, and the second part of the email is a little spiel about positive modern day training.
Okay.
And, if people choose to read that, people choose to read that, and if they don't, that's completely fine as well. And like I say, I'll do my best in pushing it as hard as I can to try
Yeah.
and help people understand and then go that. And they're more than welcome to go do their own research. And if they just want a puppy class, they just want a puppy class, and that's fine. And yeah, at least then hopefully I've shown them that this kind of training is amazing and it's good.
And do you tell people what training equipment they should bring or what they're allowed to bring or what they're not allowed to bring?
Yeah, yeah, that's one thing we've had difficulties with that I'm trying to work around. Because we're a positive modern day training establishment, we don't allow the uses of adversities.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we try and, well, we put that in our booking forms that we don't have that. And then we will always encourage them and recommend them harnesses, leads, collars, whatever that needs to be done. Um, and yeah, even little things talking about leads, like, the good and bad leads. Like, if you go to a pet shop now, there's
Yeah.
walls of these stuffs.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you don't need anything special. Like,
No.
just a typical lead. I say for training, minimum 3 meters long, ideally. I
Yeah.
understand people don't want to buy them, so we provide them for them. Say, look how good they actually are. And yeah, it's just all you need is a good fitting harness, a typical lead that doesn't stretch, and a collar for a dog tag, and that's it really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say what kind of pushback? So I take it you specify that people aren't allowed to use prong collars or electric collars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and slip leads and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. And choke chains, I'd imagine as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of pushback do you get if people are saying to you that or why am I not allowed to bring that, or I want to?
Um, the sort of the biggest one I've had is when I say, like, we don't allow any tool that compresses, moves, tighten, like
Yeah.
moves the dog in an unnatural way, um, or compresses, tightens, etc. Because we don't train through fear, intimidation, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and we had someone say, "I don't believe it causes pain, fear, intimidation," and that
Okay.
that was sort of the biggest one that we've had. It was difficult in the class because I didn't want to keep going at it. I thought, okay, let's speak at the end, kind of thing, and then go from there because it's not really the sort of time and place.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to sort of communicate, saying, like, we're not happy to train that way. Um, yeah, so that was the biggest one, really.
I think dealing with and we've got this in the world, and I try and stay. I mean, I know I occasionally make, in fact, I don't actually. It's not a political statement. I kind of mention, I use it a lot, or the example that I use, and this is as a statement, a moral statement rather than any political view. When I talking about, I use this when I'm presenting with about use of aversive tools. So, and I say to people that you either think it's wrong for people to drown in the English Channel coming across to try and emigrate, whichever way, whatever your views on immigration are, you either
Mm-hmm.
think that it's wrong that people drown, children drown in the English Channel, or you don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you don't think that that's wrong, I actually can't start to have a conversation with you about it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you either believe that it's wrong, so you either think that it's wrong to cause pain and fear training a dog, or you don't. The problem that we've got, what you're suggesting there, is when people start saying, "But I feel that it's not causing that."
Mm-hmm.
But your feelings don't matter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Us,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, your
yeah, yeah.
feelings are not really relevant. But we've got that in the world just now. I feel that, our unemployment's, for example, I feel that things are getting worse, and we can
Mm-hmm.
show them statistically that, you know, whatever,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah, yeah.
we're using, and well, I feel that it's getting worse because we're getting fed stuff on social media, or, and that just
Yeah.
constantly forms a deeper opinion and a deeper belief or
Mm-hmm.
feeling that that's the case. Well, it's not really, it's like
Yeah, yeah,
people that feel they didn't land in the moon,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
feel that the earth is flat. I don't know what to tell you, pal. You're a freaking lunatic.
yeah, yeah,
You should
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. And it's hard to get through, isn't it, sometimes? Because
Yeah, absolutely.
people have been using these things for years,
Yeah,
like God knows how long. And it's safer for them, right? It's safer for
of
their
course.
mind to go, doesn't hurt, doesn't know,
Yeah,
refuse to believe that. Instead of going, actually, the methods I've been using for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years have caused pain, fear, intimidation. And it's hard for people to accept that. So
yeah,
they just don't know, doesn't cause pain. And it's just so much easier to accept. And that's the difficult part, to try and think, look, I'm not presenting this as an opinion. Like,
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
it's been proven. Like,
yeah,
yeah. And yeah. And it's crazy. Some things I hear, like, I had a discussion with, not a discussion, I saw someone talking about a prong collar the other day, and they said, like, it's a high quality one, and all the prongs are filed a certain way so it doesn't cause pain if used correctly. But I just wanted to say, so if that's right, if what you're saying is correct, how does it cause pain if it's used incorrectly?
Yeah,
Because like
I know, I know.
well, it doesn't match up, and it's just yeah, I
Yeah,
you just sort of have to think, okay, so some just move on kind of
yeah,
thing.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know. It's interesting. So just for your the my friend Tess, did a recorded a podcast with her. I think it will be. So it'll come out in a couple of weeks. So
okay, yeah, yeah,
it'll just be before yours. So listen to that when it comes out because we're talking about that dissonance that we've got and
yeah,
then forgiving yourself. So I was like that. I think that it goes along the lines of I'm a good person and I don't hurt dogs, but I use a prong collar. So but the prong collar can't hurt a dog because I'm a good person and I don't hurt
yeah,
dogs.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that's all stuff. It's just a big eternal loop and you're like, no,
Hmm.
something in that's not right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know. And so we talked a little bit about that, but it was an interesting conversation, which will, so have a listen to that when it comes out. Um, cool. Okay. Then, so you do your puppy classes. What happens after you do because you've just set up your new will you move on to adolescent classes from there, or
Yes,
what will
yeah,
you
yeah,
do
yeah.
next?
We're just in the process of planning it. So, in the recruitment that we did to get staff for daycare, we've got a very good trainer that's around here. So, they're currently shadowing me on our puppy class, and
Okay.
then hopefully at the end of this one we can sort of discuss and plan an adolescence class and go from there. We're going to be putting a lot of emphasis in descent work and stuff like that going forward, just because we're in a farm industrial estate, but just outside of it, there's like 1,000 acres of land that we have access
Nice.
to. So we want to
Okay.
do like man trailing and searching and stuff
Perfect.
like that. And yeah, I can't wait for the future that we've
Yeah.
got ahead of us. And
Yeah.
it's just like because we're only 2 months in for daycare, there's like right, got to think of how to get daycare or not up and running, but you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
daycare blooming, get the classes blooming, do everything. Like I'm one person and I'm at daycare at 7 a.m. and I'm doing classes 7 till 8 p.m. at night, and I've got the reports and everything, and it's like 7 till 9
Yeah.
weekdays at the minute, and then weekends we do a puppy preschool and an intro to daycare on the weekends.
Okay.
Because some people, well, not some people, sorry, some dogs just aren't used to being around dogs all day,
Yeah.
and it's massive for them.
Yeah.
Not just anxiety kind of thing. It's also in the sense of excitement, and
Yeah.
like I said before, like a dog that's really excited, that's still a form of stress, right? And you don't want them going absolutely crazy for 10 hours. So we
Yeah.
have an intro, which is adult dogs on Sunday, and a puppy preschool on a Saturday. So it's just how
Okay.
we get to see how they are. And it's like a miniature compressed daycare. They come spend 3 hours with us, and we just sort of show them through how daycare happens, help them understand it. And then when we feel like they're used to the environment, used to being around dogs, they're like, right, cool, let's try half a day. And we sort of wean them in that way
Yeah.
instead of just, hi mate, yeah, cool, come in with X amount of dogs, and
Yeah.
then you're just in a room with them, and then yeah, so we focus a lot on trying to bring it in slowly.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think a lot of
yeah.
people don't understand. So that it sounds like your setup's glorious. I remember going to a seminar a few years ago, and the presenter. I mean, it makes my heart sing when you're talking about running daycare like that because you know how many of them are so bad.
Hmm.
Oh, I mean, they're just terrible.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
we've got one here who are excellent. They've got the Canine Hotel. They're in Kilsyth, which is just outside Cumbernauld, and they've got kennels and daycare. And I mean, it's Caroline runs the. I mean, it's exceptional, truly, truly, truly exceptional. And but it takes effort and knowledge and time,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. And when at this seminar they started talking about daycare, and one of the people in the audience said, "I know people bash daycares, but not all daycares like that, right?" And
Hmm.
then they'd shown it was a Ken Ramirez seminar, and the person had given Ken a video of what they do at the end of the class, right?
Okay.
At the end of the day when the parents
Hmm.
come in, and he showed this. It was amazing, right? 20 dogs. lying on their individual mats at the
Okay.
end of the day, and the parent would come in, and that dog's the staff member would call that dog through, and that dog would just meander through the room, through all the dogs,
Okay.
and calmly go and get collected, and all the other dogs stayed in place, right?
Oh,
And that
okay.
was all done with positive reinforcement training, and but that's been done like yourself. It's from the get-go. It's how we set that up, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
culture that we have in daycare. And hopefully, people listening to this will then go, I don't think my dog daycare does that. And they start asking questions so that the standard gets lifted, eh?
Yeah, 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 and that's one thing we're massive on social media. We have an open evening every Wednesday, and
Nice.
people come along, have a look around. We've
Oh,
literally got
perfect.
nothing to hide. Like
Yeah.
you can come and look, see exactly how we treat your dog, tell you the routine, tell you everything that your dog's going to do. We do a reel every day, and I think it's just good to know. Well, if I was sending my dog somewhere, I'd want to know that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we send every client a little report on the app that we use, and it's just
Nice.
like sending their kid to school, so they get to see this, and they have a great time, and we just want to. We want people, even if people don't choose to come to us, we want people to sort of ask these questions about their daycare, like,
Yeah.
can I come look around or can I not?
Yeah.
If not, why?
Yeah.
And like just these little things that we just want to be open about, just
Yeah.
because we haven't got anything on. And yeah, there's just knowing what in the license is there as well. Like for example, some people like the sort of like a shed in a field kind of daycare environment, but there's no like separation there or anything. Like dogs need to have that opportunity to chill out and calm
Yeah.
down and all that. While that field is good to have a run around, I'm not saying it's not,
Yeah.
but there also needs to be some sort of like right, let's chill out kind of
Yeah.
zone. It's just nice, and the thing that I'm not a fan of a shed in the field is if it gets cold, rainy, whatever. Like there's nothing you can do there. And where we have I feel like we have a good mixture of inside and out, and yeah, I think we have a really good setup.
Yeah. That always,
Really,
we were saying there, we used to get, when I was in the police in my previous job, we used to have we'd get days in the unit I was in where we'd be waiting, and we'd be on standby, and we'd wait for a piece of intelligence coming in. So there would be 8 or 10 of us stuck in the office. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And um, so you go in first, and like, what did you do this morning? I went to the gym, blah blah blah. How's the kids? And then you'd have a cup of tea. And see, after an hour, I'd take myself off into another room, and I'd either do a piece of work or I'd do something else, right? Sit and
Hmm.
read, because we weren't doing anything. We were waiting on the job coming in. And people, I remember guys in my team, but like, you're dead antisocial, and I'm like, I don't have enough social capacity to sit in a
Yeah,
room
yeah,
with 8 people. Yeah, and I knew them and I liked most of them. But
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
need time and one, and that's what you're describing there, eh? You've
Yeah,
got
yeah,
these
definitely, yeah.
big paddocks, and the dogs are just tearing around, and you get the dog who's like me going, for the love of God, can I get a quiet
Yeah,
minute,
yeah,
please?
yeah, 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 yeah. Good analogy, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what would be what would you like to ultimately be the biggest impact that you would have on dog training or behavior? What if that was your life goal? What would you like to leave the world with in regards to dog training and dog behavior?
I think at the very least, a thought that old school doesn't have to be it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And to be a true advocate for your dog. Um, I think that is instead of thinking of it like old school wise, is think of it as a real team and partnership type
yeah,
thing. Like having a dog isn't necessarily I buy a dog now I have to be the boss of something all the time.
yeah,
It's I've actually got a mate for life,
yeah,
and that in the simplest form, I think that is one thing I'd like to change most of.
yeah,
And yeah, I think that is a good thing I'd like to leave.
yeah.
Um,
Awesome, awesome. So this has been great. Is there anything you want to add before we finish up?
no, no, I think that is everything.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
no, not at all. And it's always amazing how quick the hour goes, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, can't believe
Just
it. Yeah.
yeah, I know. It just flies by, doesn't it? I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, I always say that the podcast is, yeah, it's for us because we enjoy doing it, but there's no point
Mhm.
in doing it if nobody listens to it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why I always try and keep them around about an hour because it's not a bad sound bite. A lot of
Hmm.
people get a half-hour commute or they've got an hour commute so they can listen to it in two parts or whatever. So, no, much appreciated.
No, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.